Hi, and welcome to episode number 12, Launch Your Writing Career. So I'm so excited because I get to share with you some of the insights that I've learned as a writer in this coaching and speaking space. And so if you haven't yet, I definitely recommend listening to episode 10 and episode number 11, where I talk about coaching and speaking as career options, especially if you are in that place in your life where you have so much expertise, either from your professional experiences or your personal experiences, and you want to help people. Like this type of business, this type of career as a coach, a speaker, a writer, a mentor, it is growing, it is booming, it is gonna get bigger as the time goes on. And if you have anything to share with the world because you've learned something in your life, you've solved a big problem, you've gone through a challenging time, and you have a process for like overcoming that challenge, everyone in the world is looking for a solution to their problems. And I know that if you're heart-centered, you're mission-driven, you're going to help a lot of people. And so I want to show you the different modalities and the different ways that you can help others. And in this particular episode, I'm going to share with you my process for writing my first book, Live Your New Story, Discover Your Best Self, and Live Your Best Life, and how this book really changed my confidence and changed my level of, feeling that I'm credible, feeling that I did the work, that I'm worthy of having a stage, I'm worthy of being a speaker, I'm worthy of being a coach. You know, writing is such a personal process. And when I wrote this book, I remember in my mind, I was like, I want to write a book one day. This was back when I was in my early 20s. And I thought that I would write a book about, oh, look at my really long, illustrious journey as a U.S. diplomat or a U.S. congresswoman or something like that, where I did all this public service and I wrote a book about it. But I ended up writing a book about how I got into entrepreneurship, which is just as awesome. And so when I first began the process of writing, of my writing career, it wasn't in the book. It was literally in a blog. And it was around the same time that I started my coaching and my speaking, which was 2018. I started writing a blog on my Squarespace, my initial Squarespace website, just about who I was, what my journey has been as a traveling spouse of a U.S. diplomat, and also changing careers and changing countries. I just started expressing myself. And I put the writing away for a while, but I always had the idea to write a book. When 2020 hit and the pandemic was in full force, I was like, all right, I'm going to write something. I need to write it already. And I didn't know exactly what would come of my writing. But what I realized, especially if you're writing a memoir type book, what I realized is that if you've never written a book before, you're going to need some time to just get all the writing out that you need to first. It's almost like, it's not even a rough draft of your book. It's what you need to get out of your heart first on paper before you actually sit down and write the book. And this is my process. This is what I did. So your process may be different. I just had a lot of emotions and a lot of stories and a lot of thoughts and a lot of things I hadn't processed ever. So it's like writing was very cathartic. And after I wrote those pages, those initial pages, that probably took me maybe about 3 months to get through. I sat down and wrote this book. And this book was about how to transition and find yourself or create a new identity for yourself, especially with all of the challenges of moving, living overseas. I was in a space where I had lost my identity in my professional life. I no longer had a community. I became a mom and I was isolated. So there were all these things that were happening simultaneously that I lost myself. I lost who I was. And when I started writing the book, I didn't have an outline. And many of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, there's no outline, there's no structure. And it really depends on the kind of writer you are. I just needed to start writing what I knew I wanted to tell someone who was in my shoes that was suffering from identity loss, from career loss, from a feeling of isolation and loneliness. I'm like, what is the book that I can write that's going to help the person that felt how I felt when I was lost? What can I write to them? And this was the book. And it ended up being way shorter than I thought. This is only 100, how long is it? It's not even 100 pages, it's 96 pages. They're short chapters, but in each chapter, I have some coaching questions that I'm asking the reader, to reflect on, because ultimately, when you are in this space of coaching and speaking and inspiring and motivating and helping others, a lot of your work is going to include that reflection piece, helping others reflect on themselves by the stories that you tell, by the words that you use, by the way that you communicate. And so I used my book as more of like a coaching journey and a coaching process for someone that wanted to live a new story, for someone that is looking to redefine success, for someone that is challenging the beliefs that they grew up with. Many of us were taught to be a certain way, to live a certain life, to have a certain level of education or have a certain kind of job. Like we were all taught these stories, we were all taught by either our parents or our community or our culture who to be and what to do in our lives. But there comes a point when if you do all that and you still don't feel right with yourself, you have to go search and look and uncover and discover. And the writing process allows you to discover yourself. I just had an epiphany right now. So step 1 of writing the book was to get all the stuff I needed to write first. And then step 2 was setting some time aside to actually write to the person I wanted to help. And I wanted to help the person that had that professional identity loss, especially those folks that are living as diplomats, expats, folks that have followed their spouse to another location. I wanted to help these folks. So I wrote the book. It was a lot longer. My spouse actually edited the book for me. But in terms of the actual writing, it only took me about 2 months to write the book. And that was on and off. It wasn't like every day I wrote for an hour. It was maybe a couple hours here, a couple hours there in between all of the at-home teaching of my 3 girls. So I wrote the book in 2 months. The process of editing and rewriting and all of that, it took another 6 months. But in total, about 8 months to get the book from writing it to getting it published. And I went the self-publishing route. And I knew that I wanted to go the self-publishing route because I just wanted to get a book out there. I knew that my book would be a way for me to show others that I'm serious about my career as a coach, a speaker, and an author, and also as a way for me to get down into my own frameworks. Like, what am I going to teach? How am I going to help people? What is it that I'm going to teach? What is it that I'm going to share with them? And through the stories that I have here now written down, I can go to any, an organization and I can say like, oh, I wrote a book, I have a framework, I want to teach on this topic. And it just builds so much credibility because you've taken the time to sit down and write, to sit down and actually get it published, to sit down and market your book. So if I were to say, what's the number one thing you need to do when you're writing a book? Is to sit down and write it. Sit down and write it and then decide afterwards whether you want to go the self-publishing route. There's like hybrid publishing and then also the full publisher where you're writing, to publishers, you're sending a manuscript of your book and trying to see if they're going to publish it for you. I haven't done that yet. That's in the future, but definitely want to write more books. And let's see what else in terms of launching your writing career. Gosh, it's what a gift to write a book about your life into the world and send it off into the world and share your story. One of the most difficult things that we can do as humans is to share our stories because it's vulnerable. But when you do, you recognize that you have so much strength and you have so much resilience. And when someone reads those words, they'll identify with certain aspects of your story and they'll see themselves in you. And so your book becomes a tool for inspiration, for motivation, for connection, for collaboration. Your book becomes this tool for you to continue sharing your message. And if you are getting inspired by these episodes of launching your coaching career or launching your speaking career or launching your writing career, it is totally possible. You can do it. It just takes time to learn the skills, and it also takes courage. Allow yourself to learn and allow yourself to build into the skill set. I am almost 8 years into my business, and not 8 years. I'm 7 years into my business, and it's been hard. It's been a journey, but I love it. And I love growing, and I love building, and I love connecting, and I love the change that I'm making in the world. Like, I don't know what other job I could have or career I could have that would give me this much freedom and flexibility, especially with our lifestyle and with my kids, that would allow me to do the work that makes this kind of impact. So I wanted to share this with you because if you have a story in you and you have a book in you and you know you want to write and you know you want to inspire and you know you want to get out there and speak and maybe teach or mentor one day, like, just get started. Start writing your story down and start sharing it with others. If you need more support, again, I invite you to join the Women's Entrepreneurial Core Facebook group. It's called the We Core Global, and that's where I'm supporting coaches, speakers, and visionary entrepreneurs on their business journey so that you can get your message out there in the world, share your gifts, share your knowledge, make an impact, make money, do all those great things, and also connect with other amazing change makers. Like, the caliber of connections that I've made in this career, like, it's just been amazing. I'm just in awe of the people that I've met and all the things that they're doing in the world to make a difference. So if you want to write a book, you can do it. It is totally possible. You just have to get started. If you need support, come join me in the We Core Global Facebook group. And again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.